Welcome to the Narrate podcast, where we aim to tell God's story with our lives. We'll be continuing to post the Sunday message each week, but we want to dive a little deeper and offer some content to supplement your life with God, and that's where our Beyond Sunday series comes in. Join Adam and Narrate staff as they provide thoughtful discussions, ideas, and interviews that go beyond the message you'll hear on Sunday. Well, hi, Narrate. We had this great idea. Well, Adam had this great idea to sit down with, slowly over time, different people from the worship team and just kind of hear their story, because you guys see them on the stage every week, and I just think it's really powerful to get people's backgrounds and their stories if you didn't know. So I get to be here with Theresa, and she's just going to give us all the tea. She's going to give us her
all the tea.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Yes, thanks for asking me to be here.
And Theresa, she's one of the OGs. She's vocalist extraordinaire, keyboardist. You see her up there all the time. So just start us out, Theresa, with give us your story, your church story, your music story.
Yeah. So I grew up in the church. My parents kind of bounced around. We were Catholic, and then we weren't Catholic, and then we kind of evangelical, went to Assemblies of God, and then they kind of stopped going to church but maintained faith when I was like probably around 11, and they really kind of let me self-identify faith, and like whether or not I went to church or youth group, really just like emphasizing a relationship with God. And so I did like the gamut of experiences, from Baptist to Pentecostal to, wow, more like conservative and liturgical style services in college, and ended up going to Northwest University, which is an Assemblies of God college, and kind of just had faith throughout all of that, and as a result was able to be a part of lots of different worship teams, starting probably around age 14, whenever we were in youth group and having like youth band. And it was like a really fun way to get introduced into playing music with other people, and also just kind of like developing a different kind of ear for music. Kind of had like a little bit of a deconstruction probably in my mid-20s, and was a little bit disillusioned with church for a while, and was just about ready to not go anymore. And then my sister, Narrate, had just started like maybe 6 months prior, and she said, "Hey, why don't you come to church with us?" And so we came, and I have been here ever since. So that was, wow. We came, our first time was in June of 2009.
Wow. So yeah, that was right at the beginning.
Yes. My son was like 6 months old. It was good. Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And what a cool way to grow up, with your parents just giving you that freedom of like,
yeah,
what do you want to explore? What are your questions?
It was. I think it was good and bad. I think in the sense where it gave me a lot of autonomy in my faith and helped it become more relationship, less religion. But then you go into religion and they want it to be more religion, less relationship. And so there was some struggle inside of there to like find a footing and feel like I really enjoyed it or belonged inside of it. And which I think is why I was kind of deconstructing a little bit.
Sure.
So, but yeah, I think for sure it was a gift, because then I feel like my faith was my own from a very early age.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Instead of being forced to do something.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you remember what really resonated for you in church back then? Like what you got to experience all these different services.
Like when, I guess so. I think, for sure music has always really resonated with me. That was a huge part of it. From a really, really young age, like from the time that I was very small. And I think, a lot of that's just like what kind of programs were available to you as you're growing up. Our youth group was like huge. You know, we had a really fun, super fun youth group, and I had a lot of friends, and it was as social as it was spiritual.
Sure.
But yeah, it was a lot of emphasis, I think, in those spaces and evangelical settings. The emphasis was a lot on building your own relationship with Jesus at that time, and it still is. But at that time, that was really just kind of affirming to my faith and growth. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
And so when you kind of entered your deconstruction part, that was really like this product of like the tension between relationship with people and relationship with God.
It was kind of more the double standard. It was a little bit of sort of the grossness of maybe misuse of power. Also, because I had been in church for such a long time, I really struggled to go to a church that I felt like I was learning or growing from. It was very much cliche at that point for me, and the approach was very much the same everywhere. And it was either like I was feeling like there was like good teaching coupled with like a very arrogant like leader, or there was like not a lot of teaching and like better relationship, but it was really hard to kind of find the middle ground. But then, you know, you just kind of, you're in churches for a long time, you see a lot of hard things happen to people, and things that had happened to me and to people that I loved that were just very hurtful. And it wasn't like I ever was giving up on God. I was just kind of giving up on like, is this what the church is supposed to look like? And I like to think that my relationship with God has always actually been very sound. It's just more kind of like floating in and out of like what I've been taught, and do I actually believe that? And that was that kind of deconstruction. I think everybody has to go through that. It's necessary. Absolutely. So yeah.
And especially when it's more related to people than it is to God, it sounds like, you know, which that's pretty cool that you could have that separation of like this organized religion versus my God. Yeah. Well, we're broken. You can't. All things run by humans.
Right? Yeah, we're broken.
That is a good point.
Yes. So you can't always put your faith in people, but yeah.
So then tell us when you got started with music, not just in the church, but like, did you learn from a parent? Did you take lessons?
Yeah, my mom is like very musical. She played piano and guitar, and she was part of worship teams. She was in some bands and stuff when she was younger, and always singing. I have this very annoying habit of like just literally singing my life penis because I got it from my mom. It's like every line is a song. But I think I'm just a musical person, you know. It came easy to me. I took piano lessons like from a very young age and all the way through college, actually.
Is that your first instrument?
Yeah, I kind of self-taught guitar, and you know, I took some violin lessons for a while. But otherwise, that was my primary instrument. So
when did you know you could sing?
Oh gosh. You know, it's funny because I feel like everybody comes into it on their own. I remember trying out in the 4th grade for this choir, and I didn't get in. Oh. You just have to like sing a scale, and I remember the girl in front of me like sang like a dying cow, and she got in and I didn't. And I was like, what? No. And so I was really sad about it because it was a special like honor choir. And then I decided the next year I would go ahead and try out again. And I think I kind of went through puberty a little earlier, and I actually think that's what was happening there. Because girls even have like a little bit of a switch,
loss
and
of control.
Yeah, and I kind of have like a lower speaking voice, and I think my voice was lowering, and so I was struggling with control. And the next year I like slayed it.
First hit.
Yeah, and I got like a couple solos, and I remember I literally remember I was sitting on, we have like this sunken living room in my parents' house, and I was sitting on the stairs there, and I was like belting out this song, and my mom came in and she was like, "What is that?" She's like, "I did not know that you could sing like that." Oh, so that was
fourth grade?
That was fifth grade. Fifth grade I got into the honor choir. Fourth grade they didn't pass me.
Just that year of glow up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's kind of when I started singing, and I've been in choirs and worship teams and pretty much performing since then. So yeah.
And that's what you did in college, right? That's kind of
yes, I was a music major in college. That was more like lack of like, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and my parents were kind of wanting me just to get a degree, and so they said, just pick something you like, and I was like, this is the most expensive thing I've ever done, just to pick something that I like to do, but okay. So yeah, I was a music major in college, and that actually was a little bit, because it's very traditional style music, you're learning, it's very classical, and lots of composition, lots of kind of really interesting things, but I was really burned out on it when I got done. I actually took a year off. I didn't do anything with music when I was done. I was kind of like, oh, I don't know if this is my thing anymore.
Yeah. But, yeah. It is different. After I went to school for music, my instrument in college was flute. And I remember I didn't touch my flute for like...
And you still don't really touch your flute all that much. I really feel like you need to bring it back.
Oh, yeah. But it's like, it's different. Like going, all of the like theory and oral skills and like all those classes are like, oh, this is like a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Play little cadences and all these things that
I think, I always use music as like a creative outlet when I was growing up. I wrote a lot of my own music. I was always playing, like when I was upset, I would play my music, and to go to a place where music becomes like this performance-based kind of sterile, like you're playing everybody else's music.
Assignments.
Yeah, I was like, this is not what I wanted it to be. So, but... I mean, it was valuable information for being a musician, but it wasn't really my cup of tea. So.
Right. It's cool that you got kind of both worlds, though. Like, you grew up in this space where, like, music was your diary. Then you switched over into, like, school music world. Yeah.
Well, and because of the college I went to was a Christian liberal arts college, there was, like, a fair amount of worship leader, like team train. I mean, there was like several worship team methods classes that we did, and writing worship songs and that gamut of that. So that was like really helpful for my, just career inside of church music, which has never paid me really, but you got
a whole lot.
But I know a lot about it.
So, do you still write music?
Since you're I have like off and on. It just kind of depends on the busyness, and it has been kind of just like a creative outlet from time to time and a hobby, not been really driven. And I became a mother like 16 years ago, and that just becomes like very like, and I'm working another job and all that. So it's in the in-between spaces, and you spend a lot of time when your babies are little being very tired.
Sure, yeah.
So, as I've been, that they're getting more independent, I've moved more, I think back into just like playing for fun, and not really sitting down to write a whole lot, but it's like on the back of my mind all the time. So
even just playing for fun though is such a good thing to get back into.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's a good muscle to flex, and it's the gamut from like just sitting down and just kind of creatively kind of improvising something to sitting down with sheet music that I'm really bad at playing and trying to like kind of hone those skills again, because it's a muscle I don't flex very much.
Lily getting into music is kind of like bringing you back into
totally. Yeah, she's like, because she's in the middle of a lot of classical music training, and she's like, oh, Mom, there's this awesome duet. Here, you play this piece and I'll play this. And then she has me order this music and I'm like, girl, I cannot play that anymore. I have to practice.
It's like piquing your interest.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah. I'm like, this would be so amazing. Oh my gosh, you're so much better than me.
And you narrate Community. Lily just got done auditioning for our worship team. And so you're going to be seeing her on the stage pretty soon. I'm very excited about that.
Yes, she plays the cello. So she's very good at it. So I'm very proud of her.
That's exciting that you guys can share that.
Yeah, it's been, I think that's kind of like every parent's dream is that you get a kid that likes to do kind of the things you do. And
you don't have to force them.
Yeah, you don't have to force them at all.
They're genuinely
interested. They're genuinely interested. Yeah, she's very self-motivated and it's been really fun to watch her kind of grow and become a good musician in a very small amount of time.
Right, yeah. I was very impressed with her skills. That'll be exciting. So tell us then, you kind of told us how you found Narrate through your sis.
My sister, yeah.
Your sister. So tell us what that was like getting started at Narrate. You just left this sort of like period of deconstruction. You're seeking something. What were you seeking?
I think I was seeking a couple of things. We had been going to another church in town where we kind of just felt like lost inside of it. It was a big church, so we kind of felt lost inside of it. And people kind of had their established groups and things like that. And I think I was looking for some place where I could build relationship, but that I was also challenged in a different way, just week to week. And right off the bat, like, we plugged in with a lot of people, and we did know a couple of people that came to Narrate already. My sister for one of them, but then Lenny was leading worship at the time, and he had just kind of randomly sort of happened to meet a lot of our mutual friends, and so we got involved with music pretty quickly because he was there. And so we all of a sudden had just like new friends. And it was very exciting. Community was, a huge part of that. And Narrate has always impressed me with offering, like, not just a space of, like, friendliness, but a very, like, non-judgmental space to come into and just exist. And it was unlike any church I had been to. And I had been to a lot of churches.
Right. Yeah.
So
that's saying
so that was saying something. I was like, whoa, this is different. This is like, and it was kind of like in the middle of my deconstruction. So, I was looking for something that was not what I had been a part of before. So I was immediately impressed that Adam was teaching. It was a little bit more academic than I was used to, but I needed it to be because I needed to be challenged and to think about things that, I hadn't thought about before. And so it really, it spoke to me in that way.
Right.
Yeah.
That's nice. So then you got involved with the band right away.
It was like probably, I was going to say it was probably like 6 months. Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty fast.
Yeah, it was pretty fast. Yeah.
He's like, hey, I know you're musical. Get up there.
Well, my husband at the time played drums, and he and Lenny still to this day play together, actually. And I was just kind of along for the ride, to be honest. And Lenny was like, he knew what my history was. I had told him. I was like, but I went to school for music. But, like, he did not let me play the keys for, like, a year and a half or something.
He was strict.
He was very strict. He was like, no, we don't have... You can sing. So I just sang backup vocals for a long time.
Wow.
Before I even, started playing the keys. So Theresa Hushko was playing the keys at that time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's so she was the primary keys player. Yeah.
All of the, the backstories. I just pick up these little pieces of info. It's so fun.
Yeah. So whenever she gets to play the keys now, she gets super excited because she did it.
Sure, yeah.
As a sole player for, Lenny played keys too, but, she was always this, they would often have 2 keyboards. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So give me some, memories from those early days. Anything that was really meaningful for you?
Yeah. Oh, it was kind of a fun, I was a lot younger then because that was 16 years ago.
Although you had new babies.
I had new babies, yeah, and so that's why it's kind of hard for me to fully recall. I was so
Like,
I was
just
so
tired.
sleep deprived. I don't remember a whole lot. I'm like, I remember it was like we had fun. Lenny he was such a creative person, and we had like very high standards. I think that was one of the things I loved about the worship team, is that Lenny brought a standard to worship that I had never been a part of before. Like all these other churches I'd gone to and been like, oh, you've been playing for a week, come on up, like,
Oh, sure, yeah.
and it was very much like, no, you try it out, and he expected you to be prepared, like fully rehearsed by the time you got to practice.
Sure.
And I loved that, actually, because I think worship should be not distracting. And, it's not for everybody, but you come into a setting where you're a professional musician and the music is bad, it kind of makes you a little cringy, and it's really hard to fully enter into worship. And so I appreciated that. It was kind of like he provided this kind of idea of leading with excellence and doing everything to the best of your ability, which I have always ascribed to as a person. And I loved that he was like, yeah, we're not just gonna play, we're gonna do it the best that we can.
Right. Just because we're singing songs
doesn't
mean they can't be excellent.
Yes, exactly. So that was Lenny's, he brought that. He started off this sort of like, and I would say that for the most part, that has maintained to a level that, I feel like is respectable. Like he started that as kind of like a pattern for future leaders to set the bar a little bit higher. And
that's fun.
Yeah.
So then things had evolved. It's like 5-10 years later, you're still on the band.
Yeah.
Give us like things that are so memorable for you, like highlights.
Highlights? Okay. Yeah, highlights.
Hilarious stories.
Right. The highlights are so funny because, like, if a Sunday goes well, you're like, yeah. When it goes bad, you're like, remember that one time?
Those are the ones that stick out.
Yeah. Remember that one time I almost choked on my own spit, and then I almost died on stage. Then I had to go off stage because I thought I was going to throw up. Then I swore on the side of the stage because I thought we were done, but we weren't. Then I had to come back on. Yeah. Those are like the things you just like, that, I don't know. You just have to laugh at yourself, and laugh at those kinds of moments. But so many good memories, honestly, like, and so many amazing people have come and gone, and we've just had like a lot of fun, It's been a lot of fun, and like a lot of really like great relationships, a lot of really supportive relationships. And, if you get to do church with your friends, like, it's just like a wonderful experience, So, I can't think of anything, one specific thing. There's just so many funny things that have happened.
That is one thing that I love about you, is that you can laugh at yourself.
Like I can now.
You just didn't I used to be that way?
Yeah. No.
Really?
Yeah. I think I was actually just telling Jonathan, like, I had terrible performance anxiety, like,
really?
From the time, which was why, my daughter being so like secure. I'm like, that's enviable. I did not feel like that for a long time. I would say 10 years into leading music at Narrate, I was still having stress dreams before I would get up on a Sunday morning. I would like not sleep at all.
Wow.
And I was, I'm like a perfectionist in recovery kind of, and so at a certain point you just have to laugh at yourself. You can't take yourself too seriously. And it just took me a really long time to actually believe that. Yeah. So
sure, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's just like you obviously bring this level of excellence to the music. You're very skilled at what you do.
Well, thank you.
That's what makes it genuine. It's like, okay, I everybody makes mistakes. If I make a mistake, I can laugh at myself.
Yeah.
Because I bring this level of...
Well, and that is the one thing about music, like, even if you're a professional musician, which I'm not even really, I'm just like a mediocre musician, but like if you're like a professional, like no 2 times you play a single piece of music is ever going to be the same.
Right.
There's always going to be something.
Right.
And to have that expectation is not human, actually. So.
Right. Especially if you throw in a different band every week.
Yes,
No two band is the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if it's the same people, it's like different. You're meeting them at different times.
Yeah,
it's just
well, and I think a lot of that doing the preview song. I don't know how many years we've been doing that. It's been like 12 years probably. Wow. We've been incorporating a preview song, but that's a new song every week that we play. So I don't know if I calculated how many preview songs I've learned over the years, but it's got to be
a lot.
That's a lot.
Because there's only like a handful of repeats.
There's a handful.
Like usually it's
it's new
every single week.
Exactly. Not all of them are great.
But how can the preview song is such a loaded topic because it's like how can you pick a winner every week? Like in your head, you're like, this would be great. And then, sometimes it just doesn't turn out that way.
I literally distinctly remember, this is like probably the worst preview song ever in the history, but like, I don't know why. My brother-in-law, I was in charge of like picking music. We were in between worship leaders for a while. I don't remember at what point. And so we just had to pick preview songs and I was really struggling. Yeah. And so I asked him, I said, what do you want to hear? Like, and he said, oh, there's a song like You Can't Roller Skate in a Buffalo Herd. Have you heard that?
No.
Heard that? And I was like, okay, it's going in. And it is the worst.
Who sings it?
I don't even know. It's like some like kind of like twangy like you can't roller skate in a buffalo herd. No. You can't roller skate in a buffalo herd. Oh, no. And I remember Adam was like, that was interesting. That was something.
Did anyone know it?
No, I don't think so.
Because it sounds like one of those songs that like if you knew it,
if you knew
like,
it, yeah, exactly. Yeah, maybe. I don't think anybody on the team knew it. But and I don't know if he just picked it because he was like daring me or like
right. Yeah, he's like let's see if she'll do it.
Yeah. Is this your favorite song, Lane? I'm really questioning your judgment here, but okay, let's do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts of the concept of the preview song?
I think it's fun. I think it's a fun thing for the band. First of all, the band, I think we when we're tired, it's kind of like but I think it's fun to learn new music. I think it's challenging. Actually, I think it helps us to grow as a band because there's sometimes stylistically music that maybe we don't really play that often. And, I think it creates a sort of, better environment for that. And then also, it's been, I think, relevant to the fact that we're trying to exist inside of the world as like, we're not like this completely separate, like, cliquey sort of like we are approachable. I think it helps to people to feel more comfortable overall. And, there's been times where I think there's been some conflict over the previous song because, we are a church, but I think overall, we're created to produce art and music is art and whatever form that takes, even if it's not a worship song.
Spoken like a true artist.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I've liked it and, the repertoire is large.
Yeah, there's literally endless songs to pick from.
Yeah.
It's just which one are we going to pick?
Yeah, exactly. So if you guys have any ideas, let us know.
Just email me your suggestions. No, that could be a slippery
slope. Don't email. Email Adam.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Oh. So whenever I think of people that play worship music or play in worship teams, I always want to ask them, what does music bring to your like personal spiritual life? Like how does it connect you with God?
I think music is this really beautiful universal language. I always think like what a gift it is that God gave us music. It's like ingrained in our DNA. Life without music would be very, very quiet, very soulless almost, I think, in some parts. And so I think a lot of my connection to God is like honestly in music. It's through worship. It has a way of bringing your brain to a quiet space that nothing else really does. Like, it's very hard to live inside of anxiety when you're singing, because you have to think about what you're singing. You can't just sing it.
It's true.
And so it's very mindful. It's very intentional. It's focused. And I think for me, it's when I feel the most focused and my heart is turned mostly towards God, is in that space, is in the space of worship and music. So it's very impactful. And to the extent when I've had times in my life that are very difficult, where I don't know how to navigate, or I don't even know how to pray, and I'm feeling too overwhelmed, or I'm so anxious, literally just like getting in my car and driving around and like listening to music and singing has been that sort of like stabilizing, centering place for me. So, you know, and like leading music and, you know, listening to music or singing, like, I mean, anybody can do that. Leading music, as far as worship leading, it has its own space for spiritual growth, because it's a lot of attention that goes into planning, and you know, you have to think about what the message is week to week, and you're looking at scripture, and you're really meditating on just kind of like the purpose of each song, and lyrically looking at things and how the truth that's spoken inside of them. And so that's very affirming to faith as well. So
I love that, what you said about anxiety.
Yeah.
That like you can't, and it's really true. Like you can't exist in that anxious world when you're engaged in music.
Yeah, you really can't.
Like it just replaces it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
I like that. Anything else you want to share with us?
Just that I'm really like grateful to be still part of this community. I think I've literally seen like everything, highs and lows and in between, and I've just been very honored to be a part of it. And it's an honor to lead worship with you. Like, I mean, I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful that I wasn't really burned out on leading. You just present such an amazing, like, you have a way of bringing us together that I have actually not experienced inside of our worship team before. It actually makes me a little bit emotional. So.
Oh, I love that.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. Wow, I love that. And right back at you, because the help that you continue to give me and the support is just really kind.
No.
And yeah, I definitely look to you as a leader for sure. So I really appreciate that. I thought of something I want to ask you before we're done.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite worship song?
Do I have a favorite worship song? Oh, gosh.
Just like in this moment. I know as a musician, it's really hard. That question is really hard.
It is super hard.
If you had to pick right now, knowing it will change.
Oh, gosh. Let me think about it for a minute.
It doesn't have to be one we lead, actually.
Yeah,
it can
no.
just be any worship song.
Yeah, one that I'm kind of identifying with right now. Ooh. I mean, like, I think for worship a couple months ago, I chose Resurrender as a song that I had been listening to. I think because in this season of my life, God has really been focusing, not necessarily on like resurrendering, but just like surrendering in general. Like that level of control, that level of anxiety, that level of self, of ego, of all those things. And that song just really speaks to sort of like the personal aspect of that, what that looks like, but also inside of the church. So that is like a song that has been really meaningful to me in the last couple months.
We end up talking about that song a lot as a staff in our morning meetings.
Do you?
We do. Yeah. We all love that song.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. And now that's a Theresa song. I can't hear anyone else sing it. Well, and you were the first person I heard sing it, like not Brooke, whatever.
Right.
And so when I when I listened to the recording, I was like, no, that's not how it goes.
That's not how it goes.
You know, like whatever the first version was that you hear. So, anyways, that I hear you singing that song whenever
that's
I
sweet.
hear that
Thank
song.
you.
And it's a great Lent song. Like we're in Lent, right? And just this idea of like continually turning toward God, continually. How can we do that, even if it's in just small ways?
Yes.
It's really powerful. Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you.
Yes, thanks for having me.
If you'd like to learn more about Narrate Church, find us online at narratechurch.org.
You can also look us up on Facebook or Instagram. Thanks for listening.